been sitting out, it's got a little bit of moisture on the surface. Could you grab a couple of paper towels? Got a little bit of moisture on the surface. I just want to dab that and just kind of dry it a little bit so that my seasoning doesn't stick excessively. And I'm sure I got a little bit on the bottom too. I just want them to be nice and dry. And since I've allowed them to temper a little bit, I have a nice sense of the temperature. So get a little seasoning.
Did they change color?
Not really. They may have oxidized just a skosh, but not too much. Skosh?
I didn't say
It's a
that.
Japanese word. Short for skoshi, which means a little bit. Why do I use Japanese? I don't know. I use French too. I use German. Schmecken gut.
Das ist gut.
Ah, gut schmecken. Gives good flavor.
Okay.
Okay, so I get a nice hot pan, but not too hot. Why? Right. Because ideally speaking, I want to turn these twice. That's it, that's all. I want to cook it on one side and then turn it over, cook it on the other side. That's it, that's all. Okay.
Are you only going to pepper on one side?
No, put pepper on the other side. I just can't talk and pepper at the same time.
Okay, fair enough. I was just
I
checking.
gotta watch that carrot. I mean, she just...
Sorry, I'll notice the most stupid things, I'm sorry.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
I did. Canola. Using a high temperature oil. I can also use clarified butter. Any high temperature oil will work fine. Okay? So I'm going to lay it in. Take a little bit of it, but not too much. Want it a little bit hotter than maybe what you think it needs to be in the beginning because why?
Kara was waving. She thought she was on your...
The pan's going to cool it. That's right. Okay? So once I get in the pan, then I back it up a little bit. And now I let it rise. Yeah, it was Cooks Illustrated. It's not a better, it's not necessarily better per se, but we can use the principles here. And what the finding was that cooking it on a lower heat is better than cooking it on a higher heat. Although sauté is cooking in a small amount of hot fat, there's nothing that says when the fat is supposed to become hot. So their contention is that if you put the pork chop in a cold pan and turn the heat on full, then by the time it's brown, it's time to turn it over, but it will also have cooked about halfway through. Because you're exciting, just like the poché à chaud, or poché à pois, as the water heats up, the potato heats up at the same time. So as the fat heats up, the pork chop heats up at the same time. The challenge with pork chops is that they're all, who's ever had a dry pork chop? Everybody probably, right? Yeah. Why? Because they get overcooked. It's possible for them, to be, is it possible for them to be juicy and yet still done?
Yes.
Yes, of course it is. It's a protein, it's all about control. So what we're doing here is, can you hear that? Hear how much it's calmed down? Okay? That's the key element of making proper pork. Any meat that's being cooked to a high level of doneness is to manage the temperature. Use this thing right here. Now use this as your control point. Okay? Yeah, potatoes. Yeah, I went in and turned on my potatoes. It started cold, come up to temperature. We'll add a little salt to the water. Again, we're only getting about that 3% ratio. Okay. Now, here's the thing about this particular dish. If my pan, this pan is just marginally, I still have some open spaces around the edges, and I'm cooking at such a low temperature that I'm fine with that. But ideally speaking, if we could get some of that fat up and baste across the top, basting does two things. One, it cools the fat in case your fat is getting too hot. This is very common with tenderloin. And the other thing it does is it starts cooking from the other side as well. It starts coagulating the proteins on the top edge. Okay? But notice, I haven't moved this, I haven't done anything here. Get it in the pan, let it go. Don't do anything, just let it go. Now, while that's going, we can go ahead and start the hollandaise. To make the hollandaise, it's very simple. It's eggs, lemon, a little bit of seasoning. Okay? That's it, that's all. Okay? So start out here, roll in the lemon just like normal. This is probably going to be a pretty dry lemon, but that's okay. I put my lemon juice in first. It's a habit. It allows me to grab the seeds. Yeah, that's a pretty dry lemon. There's the juice. I'm really testing the integrity of this finger top. If it goes through, I'm going to hate it. Didn't go through? I guess it. I'm not going. Looks good. Yeah, sure, I could have gone through a strainer, but what fun would that be? Yeah, I did just allude to the fact that picking seeds out is fun.
That's just really nice lemon thing. You just squeeze it all out.
Like for margaritas?
Well,
That's the two-piece, right? The clamshell?
yeah, it's like a
Puts it in upside down?
Right.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Those things are, you're right, those things do work great.
Yeah, they're really awesome, but I only have the lemon one, I don't have the lime one.
Are they the same?
No. The lime one is smaller.
Okay, we'll separate, if the bake shop trusted us, we would save the egg whites, but since they don't, egg separators are built into every egg. You have to go to Faraday's and get an egg separator. Yes, you do? Do you? I don't. Nice thing about egg yolks is they hold themselves together pretty well. Okay. What's the next ingredient that I should be adding? Oh, a little bit of salt, right. Help it to dissolve. Whisk all this together and make it nice and light. I have a small amount of water in this sauce pot. And this is the pot where this exactly fits. Okay, you don't want to have a pot, you don't want to have a bowl that's so large that you have a lot of heat coming up around the edges of the bowl. It will cook the eggs and cause you a problem down the line. Okay. Now you can see the moisture is now the top of the chop is starting to glisten just a little bit. That's telling me that the water is starting to come up. It's starting to want to get out. Remember, the water is trying to get away from the heat, whether it's on a grill or in a saute pan or wherever. It's trying to get away. Okay, so when I see this, then I'm going to go, okay, it's probably getting ready to be about time to turn. If I try to move it,